Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tabor Talk. As you can see, April 25th, Saturday. Got my winter coat on. I got like 3 layers of coats. It's freezing, and I'm still in this damn basement. I can't wait to go outside. I started this thing July last year, July 2019, my Tabor Talk channel. And, I did it on my porch, my deck, outside. And now I'm stuck here in this basement, my unfinished basement. As you can see, it's a mess, but whatever. It's okay. It's not bad, but I'd rather be outside. Okay, getting right into this, I'm listening to Joe Rogan's latest podcast with Tom Green. Actually, I think Joe did a podcast yesterday with Duncan Trussell, but never. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So Tom Green, remember Tom Green? Tom from MTV, and he was always on Howard Stern. Real funny guy. Anyway, so they started talking about my favorite topic of conversation. Are we living in a simulation? Joe had Nick Bostrom on last year. Ooh, I was psyched for that one. And Joe's always talking about this stuff. Anyway, so I'm going to play this clip and then I'm going to talk afterwards. But before I do play this, let me just say where I stand. I believe that we are in a simulation. Not only intellectually, theoretically thinking about the possibilities, I had an experience. I had an NDE in 2014, near death experience. I had an accident. I fell from an embankment 23 feet, was taken to the hospital, and a week later, I died. Now, there's some question. Was I really clinically dead? I wasn't hooked up. Like, no one really knows for sure, but I went into some other dimension, and I'm not going to discuss it here. You go back if you're interested. Not that I'm selling my channel, but I've done several videos. In fact, the reason I started this channel, Tabor Talk, was to talk about my near-death experience and simulation. All right, those two things: NDE, God, is there life after death? Are we living in a simulation? That's the whole reason why I kind of started this. Other things too, but really, and I haven't been doing this NDE stuff or simulation lately. I've been sidetracked with this pandemic and Trump and all this. And I get excited when I hear this because what could be more important, right? Is there life after death? Are we in some sort of simulation? All right. So I'm going to play this clip and then I'm going to talk afterwards. So by the way, here we are. These two books, if you're really into this stuff, I'm reading this for a second time. It's Nick Bostrom's Super Intelligence. Nick Bostrom's convinced that we're living in a simulation. Fucking amazing book. After my accident, I read this like 6 minutes afterward. I'll talk a little bit more about what happened to me. So there's super intelligence, and then of course I'm obviously a huge Black Mirror fan. I've seen every episode twice. I'm obsessed with it, and get this book too. They really break it down. I had a near death experience, and I saw something. All right, I'll leave you hanging there, but let me play this. So Tom Green, Joe asked Tom Green's prepared for this pandemic. He got cans of vegetables. He was all ready, and he hasn't left his house in 5 weeks. Blah 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 blah, and then Joe was like, "Well, do you think like it was some sort of supernatural thing? Like you got like a message from who knows the I don't know the simulator? Who knows? Was it woo woo sort of?" And Tom Green chuckled and he goes, "Well, you know what? Simulation theory. That's my favorite topic of conversation. And here you go. Let me play this and I'll talk afterwards. This stuff is exciting. Here we go. By the way, I'm just going to hold up my phone for this one, rather than makes it easier. Ready?
Sending you a signal. You needed to go buy corn.
Well, I watched one of your shows recently where you're talking about, I love this episode, where you're talking about, are we living in a simulation?
Yes.
Okay. So I was, I love talking about this stuff. It doesn't mean that I think we're living in a simulation. I think that
I believe it. So I'll
doomsday
say
is
why.
coming. Not necessarily, but I do love the thought experiment of talking about it and thinking about it. And so after I was watching that show, your show, I was really thinking about it a lot. I had a long conversation with my mom about how, we could be living in a simulation. What do you mean? Well, I mean, the computers are getting so fast. I mean, they're going to be able to program computers that have conscious, that little character on the computer might be able to start to think, and then it might start to be able to self-determine, and then we could just be an advanced version of that. And how would we ever know? And my mom's sitting there going like, "No, what are you talking about?"
The video doesn't matter, right?
And then I had a pretty
video
long
quality.
day of talking about this with my mom and trying to convince her, not that we're living in a simulation, but that it's possible we could be living in a simulation. My mother wasn't really buying it, right? And then 2 weeks later, this happens. And I'm thinking, is this like because we're living in a simulation? You know, because if you were living in a simulation and then you started talking about it, and then the creator of the simulation heard that, he might start a pandemic.
Maybe the problem is the term simulation.
Yeah.
Because if you're living in a simulation, then it becomes your whole life. Like, is that simulated anymore? Like, what is that? Like, maybe it's always been a simulation. Maybe if you stop and think about events that take place that ultimately all seem to be leading towards events, right? When you think about the invention of electricity and then the electronics of the 80s and the 90s that led to everyone having a home computer, that led to everybody having a computer in your pocket. It listens to everything you say and takes pictures and uploads video and just keeps getting more and more advanced and more intertwined with you being a person until one day you enter it and you become a part of it. And they create something inside the world of computers that's far more compelling than the regular world itself.
Something
Maybe
like that.
that's just the natural course of progression, and that's where life is going anyway. Like maybe that's just a new kind of life, a new dimension of life, and that all these things just come about through that. They come about through either natural causes like, you know, stars supernovaing and, you know, everything coalesces and things become carbon-based life forms emerge and life becomes what it is in 2020.
Let me pause. It's kind of getting off
those things.
the track of what I'm sort of talking about. In a way, he's right on. But okay. So I had, not only could I think intellectually, like theoretically, like, wait a minute, like you think about, what you have to ask yourself is, say, just take virtual reality. There's going to be a time, for sure, if you look at the progression, there's going to be a time when virtual reality is going to be, or base reality is going to be indistinguishable from virtual reality. Okay, so just think about that. Again, I've done a couple of videos on this explaining it more in detail, but essentially take a look, as Elon Musk likes to talk about, the video game, and even, I don't know if Nick Bostrom does, but anyway, Elon will say, take a look at video games back in the 70s. You had Pong, and then take a look at that now. So if you try to imagine like this video game scenario where it's getting more and more realistic in 3D, virtual reality, just think about it. Maybe not 10 years, 20 years, 30, 40, 100 years. There's going to be a time where we're not going to know what's real or it's going to be indistinguishable. They're going to have everything down. So the next question, has this already happened? Are we in someone's simulation? All right. So just to give you a little sort of taste of what well, you could go back to my channel. There's some videos, but really, I had an NDE, a near-death experience. And by the way, I wasn't thinking about this stuff at all. You know, I wasn't until afterwards that I got into, did I watch Star Trek? A little bit. But anyway, not as much as I do now. I'm so into this stuff, simulation, all this. Well, who's it? Rick and Morty, the animation, the animated thing. Rick and Morty, is it? They talk about it a lot. But anyway, it's like when I had my near-death experience, I was dead, clinically dead, maybe not. But the thing is, I went to another dimension and I saw something. I was interacting with a computer telepathically, like this really bizarre monolithic sort of abacus-like device, like all digital, and it was communicating with me telepathically, sending me signals. And well, it would take another 20 minutes to get into it, but I'll do some more videos on this. I saw something, and for the last 5 years, I'm just convinced that I'm obsessed with Black Mirror. I've been, over and over. And God damn, if people are into this, get this book and read it. This is the real science. He covers everything, man. Okay, almost 10 minutes. I hope you enjoyed that. I am so into this. Are we living in a simulation? Tabor Talk here. Good friends, good books, and a sleepy conscience.